Hello everyone, my name is Katie and I'm here doing a YouTube video today to talk about my experience with Lyme disease. So for me, I decided that this would be a good idea to kind of share my story and my experiences with this disease, because going into this I think I was completely unaware of how difficult this disease is and how it affects every aspect of a person's life. First going into this, I thought that Lyme disease was just something that you just take antibiotics for a couple weeks and it's fixed. My only experience with it was that my dog had it, which is actually really terrible, and one of my absolute favorite things for people to say when I first tell them I have Lyme disease is, "Oh, my dog had that, he died," or "Oh, my dog had that, and then now he's fine, took some meds, he's good." Um, in case anybody's watching this and has no experience with Lyme, that's not exactly how it works. I have just actually finished up my 3 weeks with doxycycline and still experiencing pain worse than ever, actually. But sorry, let me back up. I've got total ADD now from Lyme disease, which is one of the most wonderful symptoms that I experience nowadays. So this all started maybe, I want to say like 8 or so years ago. The stereotypical signs that you look for Lyme disease is fever-like symptoms and a bullet-like rash. Bullseye, sorry, not bullet. Once again, with the brain, not cognitive functions, like really difficult, especially today. So I don't know why I picked today of all days, but I had time and I was awake, so here I am. Um, so 8 or so years ago, I started noticing that I was having difficulties eating certain kinds of foods. Dairy and grains mostly. I found no sort of correlation between certain foods. I would eat something and I would get violently sick. Not to be too graphic, but either kind of slipping through or, just really backed up. Or more commonly than not, I would get severe stomach pains to the point where I would actually be crying. I've always prided myself in the fact that I have a very high pain tolerance. Growing up with two brothers, I mean, you get the crap beat out of you like on the daily. So I mean, I'm a pretty tough little cookie, but there's just certain things that when your body just does them to you, um, you can't control. Just the feeling of like helplessness and being afraid to eat is literally how I felt every single day, multiple times a day. Whenever I got hungry, I would try to ignore that and try to not eat, and then that led to more severe problems. Um, so when I was in high school, I started noticing a lot of problems with the dairy and the wheat, like I said, so I cut those out of my diet. At the time, I was a vegetarian, so I was technically vegan at that point, lactose intolerant vegetarian as I thought. And then came a slew of maybe 5 or so years of going to doctor after doctor after specialist to try and find out what was wrong. At first, I just assumed it was lactose intolerance because it is a pretty common problem with a lot of people. Whereas now I know it's an allergy to casein and whey, as well as for the grains, it's wheat, millet, oat, gluten, barley, did I say malt, yeast, baker's yeast, brewer's yeast, along with, I know I'm missing like 5 or 6 of them, but regardless, just any kind of grains, oats, wheat, whatever, I just don't touch it because it's not worth it. Um, and then I started going to gastroenterologists, and then I got swapped around from gastroenterologist to endocrinologist to hematologist because my white blood cell count was down for a little while, and they kind of thought that there was some sort of issue with that. And just along with the severe stomach pains that went on for years and just gradually got worse and worse. Eventually, after going to my doctor, I had realized that over time, maybe the course of like a year and a half, I had gained over 40 pounds. And I've always led a very active lifestyle. I've always gone hiking and exercising, and I never really enjoyed going to the gym, but after a certain point, I was like, hey, I'm gaining like a bunch of weight, and obesity runs in my family, and it's not something that I want for myself. So I really started looking into what I was eating, and I made sure I was eating a very clean diet, calorie restriction wise. I was in a good range. I'm friends with a lot of people who are in the fitness industry, as well as I work in the health and fitness industry myself. So it's just really embarrassing to be having these sorts of problems when I'm supposed to be representing a certain product and lifestyle myself. So for maybe like 8 or so months, I started going to the gym, started really working out, and I noticed no change. I lost 5 pounds and gained it back 8. At my highest, I was a little bit under 200 pounds, which I'm almost 5'10", like 5'9" ish. So, for my body frame, I was looking a little poofy, but I wasn't looking necessarily fat to the point where someone would say something. But as weighing, significantly less your whole life, you do notice that things start to get harder, and you're walking around, you feel just uncomfortable and bloated and poofy in your own skin, and you just feel gross all the time. It's absolutely terrible. I ended up switching primary cares because I went to my doctor and I asked him to test me for thyroid disease, which Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism runs in my family, so it wouldn't have been uncommon for me to be diagnosed with either of those. After telling him, like, I feel like something's wrong, I don't feel right, visit after visit, he just wasn't giving me what I needed, and I constantly had to push him to do certain tests. So I was pretty much playing doctor, and he was just kind of standing there like, oh, this is normal, it'll go away. Oh, maybe it's just winter, you're not moving as much. Maybe you're just eating a little bit too much around the holidays. Just very typical responses of a older, more conventional doctor. So I had switched to a more holistic-based doctor who is also specifically trained for gastro problems. I had gone to see him along with a holistic naturopath in my town, and who both in combination towards my final diagnosis of Lyme has been extremely helpful along the way. When I first saw my now primary care, he had done a blood test and a stool sample to make sure that there's no parasites in my stomach, which there was none. He found that there was an overproduction of yeast as due to food allergies. I found out I was allergic to 43 different foods. I've been dealing with allergies my whole entire life. I have a condition called allergic rhinitis, which is basically just means that your nose produces mucus to get rid of histamines that enter your body when there's like allergens in the air, and then they kind of flush them out with the nasal and the eyes getting watery, scratchy, the throat getting itchy. And what would happen is my nose just would never shut itself off because it just didn't know that the allergen was then gone and taken care of. So after getting allergy shots for years, I was tested for food allergies the traditional way of where they drop the stack of needles on your arm or on your lower back, and I've gotten it done multiple times. And that came back as nothing for food allergies except cranberries and pine nuts, which I know because I go into anaphylactic shock when having either. But as far as these other food allergies, it's pretty common for a lot of people, I guess. There's 3 different levels of food allergies, literally labeled 1, 2, and 3. And what this certain blood panel did was test the reactiveness to certain enzymes in foods. So in my case, I was allergic to lots of weird things that I at first didn't see any correlation between anything, and now I understand. For vegetables, I'm allergic to carrots, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, almonds, turmeric, vanilla, cocoa. I honestly don't even remember all of them because I just stopped eating everything for a while. I started eating just eggs and sweet potatoes and salsa and guacamole, and that was like it. Which now I don't recommend that. Don't cut out a ton of food if you don't have to. It's bad and it gets boring. So now looking back, I realized that these are all foods that I commonly ate, and what was happening with the Lyme disease is it was manifesting itself in a gastrointestinal disorder manner. It is an autoimmune disorder, so for a lot of people there's a variety of different symptoms that they can have. In my case, it was that, and then I was diagnosed with having leaky gut. Also, you may notice that I struggle for words, and I'm always pausing, and I have a hard time speaking, as well as reading out loud is extremely difficult for me. Since having Lyme disease, cognitive problems have severely increased over the year or so. I'm starting to notice a very unfortunate steady decline in my public speaking skills, which I've always prided myself in being very good at. So, sorry, beginning of summer, this past year, diagnosed with leaky gut, went on a Dr. Feingold and AIP, which is the autoimmune protocol, version of paleo, kind of combined. So I ended up losing a little under 40 pounds. I think the final number was like 38. I keep teeter-tottering, so it's a pound or 2 less nowadays. But I lost a whole bunch of weight, which was great. I was starting to feel really good, and then I noticed I was just tired all the time, and I've had mono before, so like I understand, how that feels. And I was getting these crazy swollen glands, like up in my neck. I'd have these like big, it felt like someone was shoving a softball into my throat trying to choke me out. I'd gone to a CVS Minute Clinic a couple of times complaining about this. It was around flu and cold and flu season, so I just kind of figured it was some kind of bug going around. My body would kind of figure it out. But after like a week or two, I just kind of felt really uncomfortable, and it was hard to like kind of breathe. So I should probably get that checked out. I go there, they do a strep test, they didn't find anything, sent me home. This happened like 2 or 3 times before I started noticing there was a serious problem. Fast forward a couple months to, I think it was a little bit after Halloween. Actually, no, a little bit before Halloween. I started noticing I was having heart palpitations. I was having tachycardias, and my heart would stop, and it would start back up again, and I'd feel really lightheaded, and either I would pass out or I would just feel really lightheaded and disoriented, confused. I couldn't respond to questions and do simple tasks. I just noticed that these episodes were happening more and more often and closer together. So I'd gone to see a cardiologist who had given me a heart monitor. He had ordered a stress test for the next time I came back, and he thought that it was just some sort of combination of maybe anxiety or maybe because I lost a bunch of weight pretty fast. I lost it over the course of 3 months, maybe 4 months. So he thought that it was just those, and a week later I actually ended up in the hospital. I had gone to a concert with a couple friends, and anybody that knows me, I grew up in concerts, like all through high school. That was my safe haven. So there was no reason for me to have had anything go wrong. I felt extremely comfortable in the crowd. You know, I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was literally standing towards the back. I mean, I was feeling really tired that night, so I was standing towards the back with a couple of friends just holding my bag, and my friend Sarah just kind of looked over at me and just was asking me questions like, hey, are you okay? And this is the part where it starts to go fuzzy. I don't really remember much, so I'm just kind of going off of what other people told me happened. She said that I just stopped responding, and I just looked like shocked, very overwhelmed. Like if you didn't know me, that I would be overwhelmed by the amount of people there. So she asked me if I wanted to go sit down. I guess I sprinted, got long legs and short friends, so she had to bolt after me. I actually ran up into the hallway of the venue and sat down on the ground and started just violently shaking and crying, and I couldn't respond to questions. They were asking me my name, date of birth, where I was. I couldn't answer anything, and I just remember this overwhelming, like, black, like, going over my eyes, and like kind of like an outer body experience. I could see things going on, but I didn't really understand. I wasn't really comprehending, but I was knowing what was going on. I was taken via ambulance to Mass General, in which I stayed there for the night, and I left the hospital with no answers. Nobody told me anything, and that Monday, I had already called the week before to my primary care to get tested for Lyme disease because one of my family friends has it, and he's always been pushing it, like, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. And I just kind of noticed that symptoms were coming back that before had gone away for a little while, like the stomach pains were coming back, my fatigue was definitely getting worse, I was definitely becoming more of an insomniac, and I had a huge problem with that for a while, where I literally could not wake up to go to work. I would wake up like in the morning, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes late for work. Thank God I was not fired. But I physically could not wake up. I was on medication that was just making things super difficult. Getting off it was even more difficult. Just nothing was working. I had finally gone to my primary care the Monday after that episode had happened on a Friday, right? Time off. I went on a Monday and I got tested for Lyme disease. It came back positive for Lyme and a couple other tick-borne illnesses. There are multiple different ones, and they think that I may have gotten it when I was living in Florida after high school, and that maybe I just had an allergy to milk and wheat in the first place, and you know, just that was coming back. It's just exacerbated because of the Lyme. Now I feel like things have actually gotten worse. I was on doxycycline for the past 3 weeks, and I just met with a holistic nurse who owns her own facility out of Rhode Island, and she'd been putting me on some holistic medications now. I'm going to try the Dr. Klinghardt approach for the time being to treat my symptoms, and then we'll kind of see how it goes from there, because I found the antibiotics were just too heavy for my body to handle. As you can see, I am very pale. One of the great things about Lyme is you stay pale all the time, or at least for me. A couple of the symptoms I've been experiencing, definitely the heart palpitations, the episodes where my heart will just stop, flutter, or just kind of go on AFib and just kind of like hang out there, or just rapidly heart beating for no reason. Just sitting down, my heartbeat will go up to 180 when 196 was the highest I recorded it. from sitting down at work typing. There was no anxiety, no real big stressors or anything. Um, what's another one? Oh, memory, definitely a big one. I find that I get these, like, I want to say it almost looks like a cat, like a black cat's running away in the corner of my eyes. My peripheral vision is not very good. A couple years ago, while I was at work, I started noticing my vision was definitely getting worse, and I thought it was because of all the time that I was spending in front of the computer. I just started my first real job after high school and college, and I just figured it was all the time on the computer that was messing with my eyes. Now I realize that there are a couple things that are wrong. Definitely my night vision, sensitivity to light and sounds. I noticed that if I were to follow an object across, my eyes click at points, and I can't do a fluid motion with my eyes. Definitely a lot of neurological side effects. I noticed that I have developed dyslexia, along with problems with speaking. I'm not even reading anything right now, and I'm tripping over my words. It's kind of a joke that I dyslexia fuck things up when I say words backwards or when I read it incorrectly. And I try to kind of make a joke out of it because it happens every single day, multiple times a day, multiple times an hour. So I've just come to the point where if I'm not laughing, I'm crying, and I'd rather laugh. So there's that, along with the constant body aches and pains that come and go with no notice. At first I thought it was because I was working out too much, so I stopped working out, and now I haven't worked out in well over 3 months, and I'm still having consistent pains. Right now, and my knees are radiating to the point where I will probably cry after I'm done with this. This is a new one that I've been experiencing since the medication. And sorry again, I'm skipping a lot of stuff. This is driving me nuts. ADHD is definitely another thing that I've developed. My brain can't organize my thoughts, and no matter how organized I am, I constantly feel overwhelmed with information, and I can't get things out in the way that I want them to, and I'm constantly tripping over my words. I get these tinglings down my arms. It feels like burning. Um, Definitely the headaches. Then I have like a lot of like weird pain and sensitivities. Like my breasts have been really sensitive and sore. My shoulders get really sore. You know, just like joints. It's really difficult. The fatigue has definitely been the most noticeable. I notice that my moods have just, you know, I get very depressed very easily. I'm paranoid. It messes with every aspect of your life. If you know anyone who has Lyme, we've become very good at hiding a lot of things. When I go to work, I try to not let this rule what I do at work, and I try to not let it lead on to my coworkers and to the customers that come into work, because honestly, nobody wants to hear me complain all day. If I were to list every symptom, which I actually had tried doing for my blog, um, it it's literally like, I think it was like eight Word document pages of just every time I felt the pain, every time I felt the shock of something. Um, Now I'm on a modified diet. It's very clean, very organic, which makes eating out nearly impossible. I have a severe gluten allergy, along with dairy. Anything raw vegetables is a no. Nightshades are a hell no. Dark leafy greens, they need to be steamed, and it's just, things are a lot more difficult now that I have Lyme. I'm very thankful that we caught it when we did, because I don't know how much longer I would be here if if they didn't catch it when they did. And I always felt like I was a conspiracy theorist for my own health, because I was constantly saying, like, I don't think it's this, because I feel like there's so much more going on, but I don't know what it is. And now I know, and it's going to be a long path to recovery, and I'll try to keep you all posted of what's going on. But if you want to know any more updates, I try to blog at least once a week. It doesn't really work sometimes. Like lately, I've been sleeping 14 hours a day on the weekends-ish. Not to mention, lately I nap during lunch, and then I'll nap when I get home after work. So it's just a lot to just do everyday things. So trying to keep up with these things is really difficult. But if you guys have any questions, I mean, my goal is just to share my story, so hopefully someone watching this can go, hey, you know what, that sounds like something that's going on with me. Maybe I should get tested. And there are over 300,000 people a year in just the United States who supposedly have Lyme or a tick-borne illness and don't know it. or just aren't properly diagnosed. I was misdiagnosed hundreds of times with everything from possible MS to the MTHFR gene mutation, to chronic fatigue, to IBS, to IBD, to Crohn's, to ulcerative colitis. Literally everything. I've been diagnosed with disorders saying that stress was causing all my stomach pains, or that I was just imagining it all and I was just doing it for attention. You know, this is a very serious disease, and although you may not see it, the thing with invisible diseases is people are suffering on the inside. So if you know someone who has Lyme or another invisible disease, give them a little slack. I mean, I apologize on the daily to all my friends because I'm constantly canceling plans last minute. Like tonight, I really can't walk, so I had to cancel plans with one of my friends, and this is just my life for the time being, is sitting at home in my bed with my headphones watching Netflix. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll list it in link below, along with follow my blog. If you guys have any suggestions of what you want me to write it on, please feel free to email me again. But for now, toodles.